with money love floor-to-ceiling windows. They pay millions of dollars for modern homes with massive glass walls just to feel connected to nature. During the day, it looks incredible. You get the sunlight, the trees, the view of the mountains. But real estate agents never talk about what happens to those windows at night. When the sun goes down and you turn on the lights inside your house, those massive glass walls stop being transparent. They turn into giant black mirrors. You can no longer see the dark forest outside. You can only see your own reflection. But the forest can still see you. You essentially become an exhibit in a brightly lit display case, surrounded by absolute impenetrable darkness. You have no idea who or what might be standing just a few feet away on the other side of that glass, silently watching you live your life. I was 24 years old when I learned exactly how terrifying that is. My boss at the time was a wealthy guy who had just built a custom, ultra-modern house in rural Oregon. He was going to Europe for 2 weeks and needed someone to house sit, water the plants, and just keep an eye on the place. I eagerly accepted. Free stay in a luxury mansion in the middle of nowhere. It sounded like a paid vacation. The house was incredibly isolated. It was situated at the end of a long, unpaved driveway, at least 10 miles from the nearest actual town. It was surrounded by dense pine trees on all sides. The architecture was stunning, but almost the entire back half of the house was made of glass. Even the master bathroom had a massive window overlooking the woods. For the first 2 days, it was a dream. I worked on my laptop, drank expensive coffee, and enjoyed the total silence. But on the third night, that silence stopped feeling peaceful. It started feeling heavy. It was around midnight. I was sitting on the living room couch on the first floor, reading a book. The only lights on were a small lamp next to me and the dim glow of the kitchen island. The rest of the house was dark. I was completely absorbed in my reading when I heard a sound. It was a single, distinct tap. It didn't sound like a branch scraping against the house or a bird hitting the window. It sounded exactly like someone pressing the knuckle of their finger against the thick glass of the floor-to-ceiling window directly behind my couch. I froze. My heart immediately started pounding against my ribs. I slowly turned my head and looked over my shoulder. There was nothing but the black reflection of the living room. I stared at the glass, trying to look past the glare, but it was just a wall of absolute darkness. I waited in dead silence for about 5 minutes, straining my ears. Nothing else happened. I eventually convinced myself that it was just the house settling, or the temperature change affecting the glass. I turned off the lamp and quickly went upstairs to the master bedroom, locking the door behind me. The next morning I walked out onto the back deck with a cup of coffee to get some fresh air. That was when I realized I hadn't imagined the sound. Stuck to the outside of the living room window, at the exact eye level of an average adult, was a small square piece of paper. It was taped with the image facing inward, so it could be seen from inside the house. I walked up to the glass. My stomach dropped into a bottomless pit. It was a Polaroid photograph. The picture was of me. I was sitting on the couch, illuminated by the small lamp, reading my book. The photo had been taken from the outside, looking in through the glass. Judging by the angle, whoever took it had been standing in the pitch-black woods, maybe 3 feet away from the window. They had been standing right there, watching me, photographing me, and I had absolutely no idea. On the thick white border at the bottom of the Polaroid, someone had written a single sentence in black marker. It said, "You barely blink when you read." Pure, unfiltered panic washed over me. I immediately ran back inside and checked every single door and window in the house. Everything was locked. The security system was armed. I called the police. They arrived about 40 minutes later. 2 older, tired-looking officers took the Polaroid, walked around the perimeter of the house, and shrugged. They told me that because the ground was covered in dry pine needles, there were no footprints. One of the officers handed the photo back to me and said, "Look, son, it's probably just some local kids playing a prank on the rich guy's house. There's no sign of a break-in. We'll increase patrols on the main road, but there's not much else we can do unless they try to force entry." They left. I was alone again. I didn't have a car. My boss had taken his SUV to the airport, and I had taken an Uber to get up here. Cell service was spotty at best. I decided I was going to pack my things, call a cab the next morning, and get the hell out of there. For that night, I closed every single automated blind in the house, making sure no one could see inside. I took a heavy kitchen knife and locked myself in the master bedroom upstairs. Around 10 p.m., a heavy rainstorm rolled in. The sound of the rain hitting the roof was deafening, which only made me more paranoid because I knew it would mask the sound of anyone walking around outside. I was sitting on the edge of the bed in total silence. Then, around 1 a.m., I heard a voice. It was coming from outside, down in the backyard, barely audible over the pouring rain. I slowly stood up, gripping the knife, and walked to the window. I parted the blinds just a fraction of an inch to look out. I couldn't see anyone in the dark, but the voice got a little louder, and my blood ran completely cold. It wasn't a stranger's voice. It was my voice. It sounded like a muffled, low-quality audio recording playing from a portable speaker somewhere in the trees. I listened to the words, and a wave of nausea hit me. "Yeah, Mom, everything is fine. The house is huge. Yeah, I made sure the doors are locked. Love you too." It was a recording of a phone call I had made to my mother earlier that afternoon. The stalker hadn't just taken a picture the night before. He had been outside the house today. He had been standing close enough to the walls to record my private conversations through the glass. The recording played on a loop, over and over again. projecting out of the dark, rainy woods. Yeah, I made sure the doors are locked. Love you too. Yeah, I made sure the doors are locked. Love you too. He wasn't trying to rob the place. He wasn't demanding money. This was pure psychological torture. He was doing this simply to show me that he was out there, that he was watching my every move, and that I was completely powerless to stop him. And then the recording abruptly stopped. The woods fell dead silent, save for the rain. 2 seconds later, the power went out. The entire house plunged into absolute blackness. The smart home system died. The electronic locks on the doors let out a soft, mechanical click as they disengaged. I stood in the dark bedroom, gripping the knife so hard my hand ached. I stopped breathing, straining to hear any sound from downstairs. Then I heard it. The heavy sliding glass door on the first floor patio was slowly pushed open. It dragged along the metal track with a deep, vibrating scrape. He didn't break the glass. He just opened the door. I heard footsteps, but they weren't the rushed, frantic footsteps of a burglar. They were slow, methodical, and they were wet. Slap, slap, slap. Bare feet walking across the expensive hardwood floor in the living room. He wasn't trying to hide his presence. I heard him casually running his hand along the wall as he walked. I quietly backed away from the bedroom door and slipped into the master bathroom. It was the only room upstairs with no windows, just solid walls and a heavy wooden door with a manual deadbolt. I locked it as quietly as I could, sat down on the cold tile floor in the darkest corner, and covered my mouth with my hand to muffle my own breathing. The footsteps downstairs stopped. I sat there for what felt like hours. My muscles were cramping. I was praying that he had just grabbed a laptop or a TV and left. But then, the first wooden step of the staircase creaked. Then the second. He was coming upstairs. Slowly, taking his time. I heard him reach the second floor landing. The wet, slapping footsteps moved down the hallway. They stopped right outside the master bedroom. The bedroom door was wide open. I knew that he was now standing in the middle of the room, looking directly at the closed bathroom door where I was hiding. I could hear his breathing, heavy, raspy, and incredibly close. I saw the shadow of his feet block out the tiny sliver of moonlight under the bathroom door. He stood there. He didn't knock. He didn't try the handle. He just stood there, breathing. Then I heard the faint sound of paper rustling. A small white square was slowly pushed under the gap of the bathroom door. It slid across the tile and stopped a few inches away from my feet. The shadow retreated. The footsteps turned around, walked out of the bedroom, and went back down the stairs. A minute later, I heard the heavy glass patio door slide shut. I didn't move. I didn't leave that bathroom until the sun was fully up and the house was flooded with daylight. When I finally found the courage to look down at the floor, I picked up the small white square he had pushed under the door. It was another Polaroid photograph. I expected it to be another picture of me taken from outside the house. may be a picture of the empty hallway, but what I saw on that glossy paper broke me permanently. It was a picture of me. I was asleep in the master bed. The photo was taken from a top-down angle, from no more than 2 feet away. On the white border, written in the same black marker, was a new message. You look so peaceful when you sleep. I stood here for an hour last night. He didn't break into the house when the power went out. He was already inside. When I called the police the day before, when they checked the perimeter, he had already found a way in. He had been living inside that massive house with me. He had stood directly over my bed while I was completely unconscious, just watching me breathe. The police never found him. They found the backup generator had been manually disabled, but there were no fingerprints, no DNA. Whoever he was, he knew exactly what he was doing. I'm 28 now. I live in a high-rise apartment on the 14th floor. I don't have any floor-to-ceiling windows. My curtains are drawn shut 24 hours a day. But sometimes, when I wake up in the dead of night and the room is perfectly quiet, I close my eyes and I refuse to move. Because I am absolutely terrified that if I open them, I'll see a man with a camera standing over my bed, waiting for me to wake up.